The Big Five American sports are all scheduled in November for the first time since November 2020, and we want to celebrate by slashing the cost of all daily packages by 50%, including 5% best bets. Starting Tuesday, November 1st through Sunday, November 7th, $25 daily packages are priced at $12.50, and $35 5% best bets are priced at $17.50. But even better, this is the perfect time to take advantage of WagerTalk's one-day all access. Lock in the handicapper of your choice for one full day for only $39, including when they have a 5% top play that normally sells for $35. But during our 50% slash promotion, you get a one-day all access for only $19.50. This special is valid through Sunday, November 7th, so save the whole week long.
Welcome into the best damn college football show out there, part of College Football Daily right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. I am Drew Martin alongside Ralph Michaels, Rob Veno. We're breaking down 4 games, including tonight's action. So if you're watching live, you're tuning into the right place. First up here, Ralph Michaels. Check him out, WagerTalk.com. Knows his college football, college basketball, as well as a lot else. But Ralph, without further ado, welcome to the show. How you feeling today, buddy?
Yeah, I'm not so sure my customers think I know what the hell I'm talking about in college football. So I apologize for just an incredibly bad season. So we'll get that turned around and focus in on college football. You know, I do want to mention here, Drew, maybe you were going to mention it, but I'll just mention it now. It is Gold Sheet Customer Appreciation Week. If you guys have not seen the new and improved Gold Sheet, if you just go to goldsheet.com, you can download the college football newsletter, the NFL newsletter, the Gold Sheet Extra, and the CKO, all for free. No coupon needed, no registration needed. It's all right on the front page of goldsheet.com. So you make sure you take a trip there and check them all out. I'm sure you'll be glad you did.
Absolutely. I second that, guys. Gold Sheet, good information to start your handicap with. Comes out during the week. Check it out, wagertalk.com, Gold Sheet as well. We got Robbie Veno here at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter. Robbie, welcome in as always. Always good to talk with you on a Wednesday, buddy.
Always glad to be here with you guys on a Wednesday. It's that time of year, right? November MACtion. It's kind of a different type of college football season. Almost break it down into segments now that we have the MAC each and every night here. I know we'll be discussing one of those games here today. You know, it's winding down, guys. We said it. It goes fast. I think we're down to about 4 games left for each of these teams until the postseason. We saw some rankings revealed last night. Maybe they have something to do with some of the games this week. Maybe they don't. We'll see. But I'm excited to get into these games that we're going to break down today.
Starting tonight in the MACtion, Ralph, we got the Battle of Directional Michigan schools here. Central Michigan at Western Michigan. Western Michigan open 10.5. We're seeing pretty much -9 across the board at the WagerTalk odds screen. We got 62 as the total, little tick up there to 64.5. Chippewas and the Broncos going at it. What are we liking here? Central Michigan versus Western Michigan, Ralph?
Well, you look at the stat profiles, you can understand why Western is a favorite. Western's played the number 72 schedule, plus 112 yards per game. This Central Michigan team has played the number 105 schedule this year, and they're only plus 35 yards per game. What's amazing is to look at the MAC West standings and see Western Michigan and Toledo, the bottom 2 teams. That's unfathomable. I would have lost every penny I had saying that those 2 teams wouldn't be the last 2 teams in the West come the beginning of November. Western Michigan, of course, that team that beat Pittsburgh. And then what happens? Ball State at home. They get run up, but they were -4 turnovers. That's the reason they lost that game by 25. And then at Toledo, why do you lose by 19 points? You were -2 turnovers. That Pittsburgh game we talked about where they pulled the upset, guess what? +3 turnovers. So Western Michigan basically does as their turnovers do. It doesn't really help you handicapping unless you're playing a very turnover-prone team. Central Michigan, not quite that. I do want to bring up in this series, the road team has now covered 9 straight. And the MAC doesn't get a lot of love, but let me tell you this. if you are in Waldo Stadium tonight, you absolutely hate Central Michigan. If you are a Chippewas fan, you absolutely hate the Broncos. We don't talk about MAC rivalries because they don't get any pub, but they are a legitimate force to be reckoned with when you're handicapping these games. You know, I look at it, and Western Michigan's defense has done well. They fell back a little bit last week in some bad field position, but they still only gave up 330 yards. You know, that 34 points because of the short field on the turnover, a little misleading. They've held 5 of their last 7 opponents to a season low or a season number 2 low. Again, road teams covered 9 straight. The rivalry is relevant here, where I think you knock a point or a 2 off from your power rating numbers. I lean Central for the road team to cover a 10th straight. I also lean, I went back and forth on the total, and I lean under for the first half, but I lean over for the full game. I think what's going to happen is the teams come out, bang against each other early, the rivalry and the emotion comes out early. Then I think the defenses wear out as they have in the past, and I think we'll get a higher scoring game. So very bizarre handicap when I broke it down. Lean under first half, lean over first game, but my real official opinion will be on the road team to cover a 10th straight time.
Sure, Ralph. I love that stat. Road team covering 9 straight in the series. That is an impressive feat there for the road teams. Of course, that being Central Michigan, the Chippewas tonight, Robbie. I'm looking at them +9. I don't know. Are you agreeing with Ralph's stat there? Plus the points here with the road underdog.
Well, I think I do. Let's just say this. All of these MAC games, guys, are extra days to prepare for all of these teams. None of them played on Saturday. We've got 10 days off for both of these teams to get ready for this one, which, much like that Eastern Michigan Toledo game last night, it basically becomes an elimination game in the MAC West. Toledo now out of it. Eastern Michigan stayed alive. Central Michigan and Western Michigan both with a pair of losses, still with hope. For CMU, they let one get away. Their last game before the bye was against Northern Illinois, the team that's in first place in that West, that 4-0. And Central Michigan has a 35-18 lead in the third quarter. They allow Northern Illinois to score on 5 of their last 6 possessions. They lose the game on a field goal with 54 seconds left to play. So that was a heartbreaker for Central Michigan. They could have been in much better position. They would have been tied in the loss column with Northern Illinois had they hung on to that game. So they're trying to bounce back off a very tough loss. Western Michigan, last time we saw them, Toledo absolutely smoked them 34-15. Knowing that Western scored 15 points after seeing what Eastern did to the Toledo defense last night, we might question the Western offense a little bit. But, you know, if you go through their results, they've been really good at points, really bad at points. So somewhere in between each and every week for them. Western Michigan, to their credit, guys, they've outgained their last 7 opponents since their opening game against Michigan. So they're always in the lead total yardage-wise. It's probably because they're always in the lead time of possession-wise. This team averages 13 minutes, 16 seconds better than their opponent each and every game on the time of possession clock. They get 18 and a half more plays on average than do their opponents. And they're run heavy, 60-40 towards the run. So that kind of explains some of their defensive numbers. Other side never has the ball. I don't know how great the defense really is. Sometimes those numbers can be a little bit misleading. Let's talk about your favorite guy in the MAC, Drew. Daniel Richardson, quarterback for CMU. He's been spreading the ball around pretty good. 3 receivers here, plus his running back, Lou Nichols. You've got 4 guys, all between 30 and 38 receptions on the season. The 3 receivers all average between 70.5 and 72 yards. You couldn't disperse the ball any better and make it any harder on the defensive side to figure out who to cover. You can't double anybody. There's no real go-to guy. Everybody's singled up. He's spreading the ball around. It's hard to get pressure on him. The offensive line has been good. He's been sacked just once every 31 pass attempts in MAC play. So there's a lot of positives for Central as well. Defensively, their numbers don't shine through the way that Western Michigan's do. Central's a little bit more of a quick strike team, more offensive oriented, but they do it both ways. They run and pass. Both of these defenses, in my estimation here tonight, are susceptible. They can both give it up on the ground. They can both give it up through the air. If Western hogs the ball the way they've been possessing it every game this year, then Central's going to have to do some quick strike scoring. That makes the total a little tough to handicap because you'd like to have a few quick strike scores here. If we go through ATS numbers really quick, Central Michigan looks bad, 1-5 ATS in their last 6 games, but 2-1 against the spread as an underdog, and here you're catching 9 in a must-win situation. They're only 1-3 on the road, so you have to kind of make that debate with yourself when you handicap this. Do you believe in the bad numbers, or do you believe in their underdog numbers and the +9 tonight? For Western Michigan, 5-2-1 against the spread, but only 1-2-1 in MAC play, and each of those losses was a straight-up loss. So, there's some things to debate there as well. I think when you come down to these types of conclusions, best off to take points in a rivalry game that means so much in the standings. I think CMU +9 probably the right way.
I like it,
Hey,
Robbie.
Drew,
Good breakdown
I want to jump back. I want to jump back in here. And for those that do a deep dive in college football and download my logs and stack compare each week, thank you for doing that. They're on my homepage, wt.buzz/RM. If you look at Western Michigan, it is one of the maybe not craziest anomalies, but how do you answer this? Rob answered it, but I'm going to throw out 2 scenarios. Western Michigan, number 15 in the country in plays per game. That makes you think over the total. Western Michigan, the same team that is number 15 in plays per game, is number 113 in plays per minute. They do not rush. The reason they run so many plays, Rob said it, their ball control is amazing. They have the ball for 13 more minutes than their opponent, so their number of plays reach that high number. But when they have the ball and they're not pressured, they take a long time to snap the ball. So those are the differences when you break down and you look at numbers and how to handicap and how to use them. If you look at Western Michigan plays per game, you think they're an over team. If you look at them for plays per minute, if they don't control the clock, they would be an under team.
Good points there, Ralph. And check out his logs, guys. Ralph Michaels, experts page at WagerTalk.com. And Robbie, you bring up Daniel Richardson, my favorite guy in the MAC. Absolutely. Reminding people out there, he's Miami-Dade County's all-time leading passing leader there. Miami Carroll City High School. He passed for, some crazy number, 8,000 or 9,000 yards in his career. He went to Central Michigan over FIU, FAU, Toledo, and UAB. You might think, how the heck did Miami-Dade's all-time leading passing record, why isn't he at, Florida or Georgia or Alabama, something of that nature? Well, he's only 5'11", but watch him tonight. He's pretty good, guys. Central Michigan +9. I'm agreeing there. I'm looking, yes, +9 on the road here with the Chippewas is the side I like as well. We got MACtion in the books here, guys. 3 games left. We'll get best bets at the end. Heading to the ACC up next, Robbie. We got 7:30 primetime game here. Clemson at Louisville. Clemson open 3.5. We're seeing -4 almost across the board at the WagerTalk odds screen. Total ticking up as well. We're seeing 46.5 right now. Clemson Tigers, disappointing season. We know they're ATS. They've been a money burner all year long. Louisville's had some ups and downs. They're at home here catching 4. What do you like in Clemson at Louisville, Robbie?
Yeah, and how about the way they finally earned some money last week for their backers, guys? I mean, they had 17 laterals that wind up in the end zone for a Clemson touchdown on the last play of the game. That gets them a cover, lay 9.5, win by 10 because the other team's throwing it around trying to make a play themselves. That's about the only way they've been able to cover so far this season. However, as bad as it's been for Clemson, there's still scenarios out there where they win this Atlantic Division and they wind up in the ACC title game. It's crazy, but this becomes a desperation game for them. They have to win out. And it starts right here if they have any shot at the Atlantic Division at all. I won't go into all these different scenarios, but because Wake and NC State have possibilities on their schedule that lies ahead to lose games, including a Clemson versus Wake Forest game, the opportunity exists for Clemson. A little bit far reached. I don't know what the odds on it would be, but they're still there. So we'll see if they bring some type of, I'm not even going to see if they bring intensity. I feel like they do. They just haven't been good enough offensively all season long. Many reasons for that. Offensively for Louisville, they've been on fire as of late, averaging 465.5 total yards in their last 6 games, led by Malik Cunningham, 30.2 points per game. Last week, they lose to NC State, but they outgain them 434 to 361. That's a plus 73 advantage. I think the 361 might be the more important part because Louisville's defense is the weak spot of this team, and they held North Carolina State to 361 yards. They've outgained Wake Forest, who's an offensive juggernaut this year, 522 to 501. They did get outgained slightly by Virginia, another offensive juggernaut, 522 to 503. So you get the idea. They can move the ball up and down the field. And Clemson's defense, as good as it's been, they'll probably have their hands full with Cunningham, an exceptional dual threat quarterback with an offense that's clicking right now. And the fact that, the best offensive team really that Clemson played so far was Pittsburgh, and Kenny Pickett and company lit them up through the air. So we're going to see how Clemson fares against this offense. On the other side, you have to worry about Louisville's defense at all times, but maybe the Clemson offense becomes the perfect elixir for any, middling defense. I would say Louisville's probably somewhere around average, slightly less than average. But when you get a team like this, chances are you can make your stats look a little bit better. This happens to be a 7:30 at night game. We've seen a bunch of these Big Tens. We've talked about them on this show, whiteouts, stripeouts, Ohio State last week at 7:30. This will be big for Louisville to have it on their home field at 7:30 against this team. Everybody wants their shot at Clemson right now. I would expect Louisville to take their best shot. Their protection of Malik Cunningham, the offensive line, has been really good. I know his mobility figures into that, but he's only been sacked 10 times in 244 pass attempts. And at the line of scrimmage, believe it or not, Louisville's been really good. 203 rush yards a game, only giving up 134. And the fact that Clemson doesn't throw it real well, that 134 on the ground stands out here. Louisville might have the better part of their defense working against the only thing that, really works for Clemson when anything works. I think that line of scrimmage could be big here, played toward Louisville. The problem I have here in this game, guys, is the number. Preseason, you'd have never thought Clemson would only lay 4 to Louisville. However, I'm going to take my shot here. The weather's going to be good. I just think in the end, the team that has the most chances or the best opportunity to score winds up being Louisville. They're at home. Like I say, crowd should be ruckus. They've got good enough defensive numbers to kind of stymie Clemson here. So I would say Louisville plus the points probably the way I'd look.
Yeah, looking towards the dog here, the Louisville Cardinal at home. Of course, ATS, Clemson just 1-7 on the year, Ralph. It's almost, surprising. We know talent-wise Clemson's got it, but being that big of a money burner, I'm almost surprised they're laying more than a field goal here on the road. What are you thinking in Louisville on Saturday night?
Well, Rob, I was looking up those odds. Now, I don't have the odds of what Clemson's odds are to do what you said to get and win the ACC, but I can tell you, looking at FanDuel Sportsbook, they are currently 10-1 to win the ACC. Pittsburgh plus $120, Wake plus 350, NC State 4-1, Clemson and Miami are 10-1. Virginia 16-1. So I want to hear after I get done with this, Rob, if you actually think there's value in that 10-1 shot getting Clemson in all but 2 games. And guess what 2 games they didn't go under? A double overtime against NC State that was under in regulation, and last week's Florida State game where both the side and total switched on that last second 10 reverses and the very fortunate bad beat. The unfortunate bad beat for those that had Florida State or the under. I look at Virginia, and I want to reemphasize what Rob said about the offensive line. 5.1 yards per carry and only 4.3% sack percentage. Now, anytime you have a mobile quarterback like Malik Cunningham who leads your team in rushing, you're going to have a higher YPC and a lower sack percentage. But on that defensive line, you're allowing 4.1 yards per carry, and you have a 7.2 sack percentage. So numbers that are very important when I look at this matchup. If statistical profile, this game is still not lined properly. Clemson is still overvalued because who they are, the name they have, and the head coach they have. On the season, Louisville's played a tougher schedule. Number 20 versus number 3. On the season, Louisville plus 33 yards per game. Clemson only plus 4 yards per game. Louisville also with the better yards per play diff. And, we talk about what ifs all the time, but let's remember this Louisville team lost to Wake Forest by 3 points, lost to Virginia by 1, or we'd have a whole different situation, and Louisville likely would be the favorite here. Statistical dynamics have me on the Cardinals. And can they win the big game? I'm not so sure. This won't be on my card. It's not going to be part of my best bets. But I side with Louisville more in a situation where they can finally kick the bully than having confidence on Clemson to win a game on the road with the way their offense is playing.
Robbie, I guess we got to throw it to you. You got to answer Ralph's question. Can they kick the bully here?
Well, to Ralph's point about being overvalued, my power ratings, and I don't know where yours landed, Ralph, but I only made Clemson a 2.5-point favorite here. So certainly, 4 is above where I would have thought it should land. It, like I said earlier, preseason-wise, you would have never thought it would be this low, but they're somewhat overpriced. As for the 10-1, when you said it, Ralph, I thought, oh my God, that's so low, 10-1, because certain things do have to happen. But when you go through these schedules remaining of Wake Forest, and Wake Forest has a game with UNC this week, but they have NC State and Clemson still on deck. They could go from 0 to 2 losses conceptually and find themselves not winning the Atlantic. Clemson would own a tiebreaker. NC State also has North Carolina and Wake left. They could find their way down to 3 losses. So the possibilities exist if you want to take your shot with 10-1. For me, I'd probably like a little more because I don't know that all of that can happen. But we'll see. I mean, Clemson, I know that's what they're preaching in their locker room. We still have a chance. I just don't know that they're good enough, guys.
Robbie, you have a pretty good grasp here. One more question for you. What about Wake Forest? 8-0. Can they run the table, find themselves knocking on the door of the playoffs? What do you think?
Well, they could, but their schedule is probably the most difficult of all 3 down the stretch, right? You've got UNC, you've got Clemson, you've got NC State, I think, all 3 of those. And that's tough. They've gone through the softer part, 8-0. To say they can't beat them, Drew, would be crazy because Wake Forest has taken on every challenge so far this year. But it's going to get tough for them this last stretch. We'll see.
Guys,
undefeated, I would rule out. I don't think they'll go undefeated.
That'd be fun to see a 13-0 Wake Forest. Make the playoffs? That'd be kind of wild. But, hey, we'll see what happens. That's what makes college football fun. We got 2 games left here, guys. LSU and Alabama, talking about rivalries here. Ralph, coming to you first. 7 p.m. Saturday night in Tuscaloosa, 66 being the total. We saw it open Alabama minus 28-point home favorites. We've seen it tick up here, minus 28.5 at most shops. Used to be a heck of a rivalry just, a couple years ago. Now, 4 touchdown favorites. Tough to call it too big of a rivalry this year. But what are you thinking? Go Tigers versus the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Is Nick Saban going to feel bad because Ed Orgeron's a lame duck coach? I don't think so. We've seen this Alabama team throw late. On my TNA segment, I'm bet on it. I brought out a system that applies to this game, so let me mention it. College football home favorites of 11 or more off a win and off a bye. Alabama obviously beat Tennessee. They had a bye week, and now they're a home favorite of 11 or more. Since 2014, those teams have covered 62.7%. In that same situation, when a team is a home favorite off a bye and off a win of 21 or more points, like Alabama is this week, those teams have covered 67.6% of the time. So Alabama in a positive 68% situation. Of course, let's remember the last time Alabama hosted LSU, that was an upset, 2 years ago when LSU was going on to their national championship game. So, is it really revenge because they played them last year and they beat them? Well, I think when you lose as many home games as Bama does, it is a game to be circled next time you host them as well. You look at Bama's schedule. Do you have to worry about who's on deck? No, you have a bye. New Mexico State on deck. So no, you're not worried about who you're playing either. You're looking at an off week, LSU, New Mexico State. That's the type of game that you're going to give, your complete effort on. LSU in the same boat, really. They had a bye. They have Arkansas on deck, So, but again, Alabama's not looking past LSU. There's no reason to think they will. And LSU was so banged up this week, despite having a bye, they could not have all the practices they wanted to have because they couldn't field the teams enough to practice. That's a scary situation going up and facing this Bama team. I'm going to use this as my best bet. And so I'll just mention it now. I'm going to sprinkle half of my best bet on Alabama first half on Alabama for the first game. When I look at this team, am I afraid? Alabama's team total is 46.5. Well, they've topped that 5 of the last 7 games. They didn't get to it at Florida. Florida's defense is nothing like LSU's defense. And they got 42 against Mississippi in a game where they could have had more as well. So 3 things I like: Alabama first half, Alabama game, Alabama team total. They do get revenge for that home loss last time the Tigers visited.
They have a bye on deck, Robbie. Oh, nope. New Mexico State. Boom, boom. That was a good one, Ralph. Robbie, what are you thinking here? Tigers and the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, it's near impossible to build the case for LSU, guys. The only case I could find for LSU is because when you get into the weeds and start handicapping this game, you just read it as a blowout from start to finish. However, let me just say that despite as bad as LSU has been, their largest loss this season was 21 points to Kentucky. So they haven't lost by this margin, despite being outplayed almost every step of the way, despite being more and more injured as every game goes by. I think the last point Ralph made about injury would be the biggest point I would make about this game. It's just a depleted team with a lame duck head coach, but we can go through some stuff here. And then, Drew, at the end, I'll give you some stuff that I know you'll really like. The Alabama rush defense and the quarterback pressure that they've applied since that Florida game. Remember, guys, when we did the Florida game the week after, kind of amazed that Florida beat Alabama up at the line of scrimmage the way they did. Well, since then, Alabama's allowing 59.3 rush yards per game, only 2.2 a carry. They've recorded 12 sacks in those 4 SEC games. Those games are against Ole Miss, A&M, Mississippi State, and Tennessee. All 4 at this point in time, head and shoulders above what LSU is fielding. It's important because LSU has now become dependent upon the run game and Tyrion Davis-Price. They just don't have pass weapons anymore since they lost Boutte. It's been tough for them to throw the football. They don't protect Max Johnson real well. The ground game was non-existent all season long. Then it shows up in full force for one game against Florida. Then what happens? It disappears again. Last time out against Ole Miss, they go 35 carries, 77 yards, 2.2 a carry. So that tells you right there, they can't run the football. They had one day, Florida didn't show up. They were woefully unprepared for that game, and they got steamrolled. But that game is more of a mirage than anything else. So in essence, what would you expect LSU to be able to do here offensively other than nothing? against this Alabama defense. I think that's probably what they'll do. They'll probably do nothing here in this game unless you get some freakish stuff like turnovers that set up short fields. And, of course, that can always happen in a football game. I talked about their lack of protection for Max Johnson. They've allowed 13 sacks last 4 weeks. Talked about how good Alabama's pressuring the quarterback lately. It's the stretch run for Alabama here. Listen, they're in an SEC West contest with Auburn, and they have Auburn at the end of the season. Auburn's got a date with Texas A&M this weekend. We'll see what happens. But Alabama's got to, in my estimation, when you're playing for Coach Saban, you come out of this bye on absolute fire. That was a good time for a bye for this team to get ready for the stretch run, try and settle this West, and then head into the SEC title game against Georgia. Offensively, they should have no problem. LSU's defense has allowed between 453 and 485 total yards in every SEC game this year. They give it up both ways, 202 on the ground, 272 through the air. So again, every single thing I mentioned points to Alabama blowout. The only thing I can say about LSU is they haven't lost by 29 points this year. We'll see. Alabama's won a few by 29 points, but let me say this. The only time they've won, 2 times they've won by 29 or more, those were against, let's leave Mercer and Southern Miss out of the conversation, okay? You're supposed to win by 29 or more. They did it against Miami of Florida. They did it against Mississippi State. Otherwise, all their other wins are 28 or less. Drew, I'm going to give you this because I always like to go over first half and second half numbers. Alabama, second half, we always talk about how they let off the gas pedal in the second half, and it's not necessarily that they pressed the gas pedal second half here, but that team is 8-0 over the total in the second half so far this season. 8-0 over. First half line, because we talk about Alabama first half so much. In this case, it's 17. Alabama's first half winning margin this year plus 17.3. So right on the number. I'm going to agree with Ralph. I think this first half could be a blowout. This first quarter probably is a blowout. Could be 21-0 by the end of the first. Find it real hard to play anything except Alabama. The total might not get there because I don't know how much LSU is going to score. Last time we saw Bama against Mississippi State, I think they held them to 9. So you could get a lot of points out of Alabama and still have an under here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for LSU on the road at night. Tough place to play there in Tuscaloosa. Also, Alabama 7-0 against the spread as an SEC home favorite of more than 15 points, meaning, a lot of times we think Nick Saban doesn't run it up, and teams like Mercer, a lot of times he doesn't. But against these SEC foes, when they're favored, at least the last 7 times, they've been covering guys. And I have seen, personally watching this, when the stats match up with what you're watching and the matchup on the field, it really does correlate. He does tend to keep on the pedal to the metal against these SEC foes, doesn't let them hang around. So kind of some things pointing here towards Alabama at home minus the 28 if you can find it. We got one game left. We'll get best bets at the end. Robbie, coming to you next in the Big Ten, Ohio State at Nebraska. We're seeing Ohio State minus 14 in the hook, road favorites, 64.5 being the total, 12 noon kickoff. Kicking us off here on Saturday in Lincoln, Robbie.
12 noon on the East Coast, 11 o'clock Central Time. Maybe Nebraska thinks that's an advantage to start at 11 a.m. They probably should start this game at 6:30 a.m. if they want an even bigger advantage. I'm absolutely done with Adrian Martinez, guys. I mean, and I know it every time I play Nebraska. I got away with it once this year against Northwestern. And I came back last week and thought against Purdue because I thought Purdue was a worn-out ball club after going through Iowa and Wisconsin, the rigors of the Big Ten West, and I thought Nebraska off a bye would be ready. Adrian Martinez will absolutely make you rip every hair out of you. I don't know how Scott Frost does it. I don't know how Scott Frost didn't recruit a quarterback to take the place of this guy. I mean, he had Tristan Gebbia. He had to be lousy because he goes to Oregon State and can't start. He had Luke McCaffrey. He has to be lousy because he went to Rice and can't start. So somewhere along the way, Scott Frost has failed in getting a quarterback here, or else, like a lot of people, including myself, you just get tricked by Adrian Martinez. Ridiculous play last week, guys. After ridiculous play, go to the sidelines, get chastised, come out, make another ridiculous play, and allow Purdue to win that football game. Terrible performance. The team is shot now. 1-5 in the Big Ten West. They're in last place. 3-6 record. They would have to win out, including this game, just to make a bowl. Scott Frost's not going to make a bowl game this year in what was considered a hot seat year. I don't know what's going to happen to him. Where that's concerned, the scary part is games like this turn into Super Bowls for a team like Nebraska and a coach like Scott Frost. One win over Ohio State, if he could pull it off miraculously, could save his job. I mean, he's Lincoln's favorite son, and beating Ohio State might keep his job, but that's kind of a pie in the sky idea where I'm concerned. Adrian Martinez, biggest reason why. I mean, he could come out this week, guys, and throw for 300 and make every play in the world. You just never know what you're going to get with him. But last week against a one-dimensional Purdue offense, who got Xander Horvath back at running back, they can't really run, but they had their lead running back, and they did just enough in the running game to then go ahead and complete 76% of their passes against the Nebraska defense. It's hard to figure out the reason why, except that Purdue, their timing-based offense is very precise. They do a good job at running it, and Nebraska's defense was continually put on the field by their quarterback making mistakes. So I think when you're going to play Ohio State, which can run at will, that could be problematic for Nebraska here. As I said, the pass defense was shredded. Nebraska loses turnover margin 4-0 last week. They lose time of possession to Purdue by 17 minutes and 16 seconds. They lose total plays 86-58. They just get dominated, especially second half. Something we want to point out negative about Ohio State, because we did the Ohio State-Penn State game on this show last week, and I kind of made the observation that Ohio State's defensive numbers were improving, but the four teams they played prior to Penn State to show that improvement were really garbage offenses. And last week against Penn State, their pass defense again was hit pretty good, 35 of 52 for 361 yards. Sean Clifford was healthy. His receivers were open. When you look at this game, you have to kind of compare. Do I think Adrian Martinez is Sean Clifford? Certainly not ball security-wise, certainly not accuracy-wise. So I don't think that he can have the same effect that Sean Clifford had on the game last week. And to add to that, is Nebraska's receiving core the same as Penn State's with Jahan Dotson, Parker Washington, those guys? No, they're not. So I think certainly Ohio State has it a little easier in the secondary. And Ohio State last week, again, I made this statement that I didn't think anybody other than Georgia could hold Ohio State under 42 points. And I don't think Penn State should have last week either. Ohio State's inside the 10-yard line 3 times, settle for 3 field goals. I don't think they'll settle for field goals here against Nebraska. The only case I can make for Nebraska is that they just have one of these Super Bowl uprisings. I could make the case for Ohio State that those rankings came out last night, and they know they need to destroy people down the stretch, win every game. So I could see them winning by margin here. I think Ohio State's the right side, guys. I just don't see Nebraska hanging in here.
I agree with you, Robbie. Ralph, coming to you next. Ohio State has smashed Big Ten opponents when they're favored by doubles on the road, going 7-1-1 their last 9 times doing so. And another stat here pointing against Nebraska, Ralph. Nebraska 0-6 against the spread as dogs of 8 or more points. They just haven't stepped up in class very well under Scott Frost. I think the end is near when you talk about Scott Frost at the helm in Lincoln. What are your thoughts here in Lincoln against Ohio State?
Well, Rob said Nebraska's 3-6, and they have to win out. You have Ohio State. You're on the road at Wisconsin, and you have Iowa. You ain't freaking winning out. Period.
Luck, right,
so
Ralph? Good luck.
I am going to disagree with Rob on one thing, and that is that Ohio State needs to win with style points. They don't. They're 5th. They play Michigan State. They play Michigan. If they win out, they're in. They're top 4. Done. Simple. There's no answer. There's no answer left because they're playing a team that's ahead of them. So, but that doesn't mean, we've talked about it on the show last week, that he keeps throwing and he has played his offense in the second half. But I'm gonna be as simple as this. Ohio State, in their worst performance of the year, had 466 yards, 33 points and left 20-some points off. Nebraska has played Illinois. Is Illinois a good pass team? No. Michigan State, a big pass team? No. Northwestern, a good pass team? Minnesota, a good pass team? No. Purdue, a good pass team? Not really. They've played that slate of Big Ten foes, and they're allowing 69% completions. Ohio State gets their points. Ohio State's defense, as we see, has given up points. I like the over here. The only way I think this doesn't go over is if Adrian Martinez, it's very important when you turn the ball over. If you turn the ball over on your own side of the field, obviously it's great for the overs. If you go on a 10-play drive and turn the ball over in the red zone, like Mahomes and the Chiefs do all the time, it's good for the under. So I think Adrian Martinez just turns the ball over enough on both sides that it's not going to matter. I do like this game over the total. And Rob brought up an excellent point. I was gonna bring it up as well. Ohio State's defense looks so good because they played Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana without their quarterback, and Akron. I mean, that is one of the weakest slates of offenses you could face in that situation. So clearly like the over in this spot.
All right, over of 64.5 it looks like right now, guys. So that's Ralph Michaels, Robbie Veno breaking down the games here. That was the 4 games. We got the MACtion tonight, and then ACC, SEC, and Big Ten games all in the book. We'll go around the horn here, guys. Shout out to everybody in the chat box. We got RJ in the house. A lot of people throwing out different bets they're looking to bet. We welcome that, guys. Whatever you're wanting to throw out there, what you're looking to bet, it's all welcome here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel in the chat box. Guys, going around the horn here, lock it in for best bets and any final thoughts for the watchers. Ralph Michaels on WagerTalk.com. We got the half-off plays going for this week. He's a great guy to check that out. We got college basketball around the corner. Ralph, what do you got for best bets and any final thoughts?
Drew, as I said, I'm going to just split the best bet. Half Bama first half, half Bama full game. Half off week, all daily packages at WagerTalk. And again, make sure you check out goldsheet.com. All those free downloads available right on the front page.
Yeah, Gold Sheet's a good one, guys, to get you ready for your handicapping for the week. And Robbie Veno, check him out, wagertalk.com. Robbie, what do you got for final thoughts, best bets?
Yeah, I'm going to go first half also, guys, but I'm going to play Ohio State. They're 7.5 in the first half. And I just, if they come out and get the first touchdown, I just could see all the air going out of that stadium immediately. And I would expect Ryan Day during practice this week, because of those 3 drives inside the 10 where they didn't come away with touchdowns, to really focus on red zone offense here. They're going to have no problem getting up and down the field against this team, but I think they're going to turn those 3s last week into 7s. That would bode real well for what Ralph recommended as far as total is concerned. I was a little bitter because I had over last week and they did settle for those field goals. But here, 7.5 to me just doesn't seem like a lot of points for them to cover first half. So give me Ohio State first half minus the 7.5 over Nebraska.
All right, 2 favorites for you guys. I'll cross it up here
Drew,
with an underdog.
Can I jump back
Central
in, Drew, before
Michigan,
you give your best
9. Road teams covered 9 straight in the series. So it's tonight, guys. Central Michigan Chippewas +9 against Western Michigan. Ralph, take it away, man.
My apologies, Drew, for jumping in on you. You know what? I had a point here written on my notes, and I scribbled them so quick, and I wasn't thinking. This Nebraska team that we all bashed, that's 3-6 and could be 3-9. If I told you, if you look at yards per play diff in the NCAA this year, are you surprised Ohio State's number 1? No. How about if I told you that 3-6 Nebraska team is number 11 in the country, plus 1.71 yards per play? Their offense is moving the ball. Their defense is playing okay. But Adrian Martinez has just been a train wreck that you talked about, Rob, with those turnovers and not scoring points in the red zone. An amazing stat for a team that we all perceive playing so poorly. Nebraska, number 11 in the country, plus 1.71 yards per play.
He's Ralph Michaels. For Robbie Veno, I am Drew Martin. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Come join us next Wednesday as well. Same time, same place. Please smash that like button on your way out. Feel free to comment below on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Let us know what you agree with, what you disagree with, what you're looking to bet. It's all welcome, guys. So for the best damn college football show out there, Ralph, Rob, I am Drew. Best of luck with your bets, guys.
We've reached the midway point of the 2021 NFL regular season, and the Gold Sheet would like to say thank you for another fantastic year. The Gold Sheet has been serving NFL and college football bettors for over 6 decades and continues to make enhancements and improvements into today's digital age. Whether you're a lifelong subscriber, used to buy it at the newsstand, or perhaps have never seen the Gold Sheet, we want to share this week's edition with you. To celebrate Customer Appreciation Week, all Gold Sheet football products are free. That includes the traditional Gold Sheet with write-ups on every NFL and college football game for this week. No codes, coupons, or registration required. All productions are available for download at goldsheet.com.